Hi, I'm Alison, and this is the CustomerX Files. Professionally speaking, my background is rooted in marketing, but last year I ditched the CMO career path and followed my true passion, putting the customer at the forefront of business strategy. You could say I'm all in on the overall customer experience. As I always say, we are people before we're professionals, so personally speaking, you'll often find me spending time with my teenage daughters, traveling, cooking, exploring thrift shops, or hiking on secluded trails. Tom Petty fills up much of my playlist, British programming is often on TV, and as an English major, oddly, my reading list is surprisingly short. But there's only so many hours in the day, the cats knock my book away, or the dogs are begging for me to take them for a walk. More importantly, thank you. Thank you for joining me each and every episode with my incredible guests. We're so happy to have you here and so happy to have you join the conversation. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be joined today by point of reference customer and customer advocacy operations wizard, Alec Hulitzky. Alec is an operations lead on the customer advocacy team at Seismic. And I'm excited because he has this passion for delivering meaningful outcomes for customers, but doing it with that operations mindset. So the technology that supports those advocacy efforts can really help source advocates, track program performance, and also operationalize certain processes. I have a soft spot in my heart for ops folks, so I'm looking forward to it. And I know that also Alec is a great person as well as professional because he shares his office each day with Coco, his canine assistant, and when he's not in his operations role, enjoys getting out on the links, especially right now when the weather is so nice. So welcome, Alec. It's so nice to have you.
Thank you, Alison. It's a pleasure to be on.
So I have to ask, because I'm a big animal person, what kind of dog is Coco?
Coco is like 90% pit bull.
Okay.
A lot of people say that she looks like a seal. I don't know if you've ever heard that comparison. Seals look like pit bulls, but
they do. They kind of have that face with the ears that are kind of, small pushed back. I love it. Is she gray?
She's not gray. I used to have a gray pit bull. She's more of like a golden color. She's a sweet dog. Yeah.
They are sweet dogs, and they get an unfortunate rap. And I've spent a lot of time working with them with different animal rescue organizations. So I'm really glad to hear that you've got her as your coworker. Probably a great coworker too. If it's anything like my two, they have it made. Pretty much, they don't do much. I'll be honest. They're kind of lazy coworkers, but they do give me a little, bright spot when I get up and go for a walk during the middle of the day. We try to do that.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, it's always nice breaking it up. Yeah, it's always good to have a kind of a sidekick, especially working remotely. That's always a nice thing. So totally agree.
And so I always ask everybody a people before professionals icebreaker question. And we're going to talk a lot today about automation and your role, your ops role. So personally speaking, I know you said you like to golf, and obviously you've got time with the dog. So when it comes to automation, what do you wish that you could automate in like your personal life to make life easier?
Oh my gosh, it's such a good question. And there's so many things. I think, and I don't even know if this is possible, but when it comes to travel, like any way to automate that process, obviously like teleportation isn't a thing, but that would be nice. And then kind of on the topic of travel, I can't stand just sitting in lines. And so going to restaurants, sometimes you check in, you get added to a wait list. And I really appreciate those restaurants where you can kind of go ahead of time, jump online, kind of check yourself in, and then when they send you a text when you're ready. So I always love that.
I'm with you on the teleportation, and it's not possible yet. That's the key there, because I love to travel, and the worst part, of course, is it's the getting there and then the getting home. So either teleportation or ruby slippers or something that could help make that easier would be good. But I'm with you also on the reservations, the join the wait list. That's a more practical, I guess, example of automation and when it works well. So I'm curious, before we kind of dig into the nitty gritty. I love your career path thus far. You worked as an SDR. and you've moved into operations, and then specifically operations within customer advocacy, which is not as common as some may think, but it really should be. I'd love to hear a little bit about how did you go about that path and what brought you to customer advocacy?
Yeah, totally. So the company I work for, Seismic, they've been absolutely great. So I started in, I believe it was May of 2021, as an SDR, and they're really good with the whole career pathing program. So really, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do in my career. And I think for anybody that is kind of in that same boat and is into software, I think being an SDR is really the way to go. It gets you amazing experience. My whole thing is I believe if you can cold call successfully, you can do anything. And that was always something that they would preach to us and kind of gave us a sense of confidence as a team. So when it came to that, it was really an opportunity that kind of rose in terms of customer advocacy. It was at the time in 2021, this is later in the year, it was a smaller program, and they were looking to scale a bit. So an opening came up, and, operations is definitely something that I've had an interest in. And I really think that joining a program that was a bit small and they're looking to scale, I looked at that as a great opportunity. Let's build this thing up. And, I have a great boss, Marguerite. She does a great job at, running the program. She's a great quarterback when it comes to everything. So yeah, really kind of just the opportunity that came up, but I'm so glad that it did. And I'm so glad they welcomed me in. I've been working in the role for a few years now, and I love it. So it's been a great situation.
And I love that you called out the cold calling, because that is for sure. That's a skill. And you mentioned confidence specifically, and it's something that I talk to a lot of CMA professionals about, because programs are growing, programs are scaling, or it's a brand new program. There's not always black and white, and you need to have that confidence, to come at it and to be confident in what you're doing. So I love that you mentioned that. And actually, I think everybody should be an SDR or work in a call center, even for like 2 weeks, because the amount of lessons that you'll pull from that is extraordinary. As somebody that was in high school, I did that, and I've taken those lessons with me into pretty much everything. And I mentioned, Alec, that so you're in a really unique role, customer advocacy, and specifically your role in operations, because a lot of times, customer advocacy doesn't have the, how do I say, like either enough resources or the ability to focus on certain things. So I think your perspective is really unique here, and I know people are excited to hear about it. So let's start with maybe not to start with the negative, but why do you think there's so many advocacy programs today that are still using manual processes, that they seem to be sort of stuck, if you will?
Yeah, that's also a good question. And just speaking from experience, I think cases like that, it might be, smaller programs that haven't had the opportunity to build up quite yet, or maybe it's just the timing. Like maybe they just launched and they're trying to get their resources together, build some core customers that are great advocates. I do believe that that's that's foundational to building an advocacy program. From what I've seen is if you have those core advocates that are really strong, really supportive of your brand, that's a great way to kind of build out. But I think in those cases, just limited resources from being kind of being a newer program, kind of fresh. We were kind of in that boat when we started off.
I was going to ask you about that. How did you make that jump? Because obviously you're here and you've been doing it for a while. So what was the magic?
Yeah. So again, I think we've done a really good job at fostering advocates, supporting them. Our advocates do a great job for us in terms of supporting the brand, singing our praises. So that's been something that's been really helpful to build on. So from there, other advocates see the great things that our, existing advocates are doing. They want to get involved. They see the program. We are very, we like to vocalize. So we like to get our, message out there. We like to get our name out there, and not only to our coworkers, but also especially our customers. So we're always encouraging them to join the program. And not only do we provide benefits for them, like exclusive events, things like that, but we also just, we show them that we care. We always, reward them. So I think having those types of processes has helped grow. Other advocates see the great things that our current advocates are doing, and our enrollment count has grown in advocacy. And that's kind of built the need for, more automated processes. When it comes to, data reporting, we oftentimes at the end of the quarter, report on how we did, how many sales references did we do, how many events did our advocates support, and, revenue influence. That's another one. Pulling that data manually takes so long, and that's where, Reference Edge kind of came into play. We saw the need for more automated processes. We were growing, and we needed a tool that kind of centralized all that data. And so I would say that's really the magic and the turning point was when we brought Reference Edge in. We really grew a bunch from there.
Okay. And is it fair to say, I heard you talk about, your advocates and leaning on the advocates, and I think that that's worth, going back to, that you were able to really showcase their success and kind of what that was delivering, but not only internally, but then also other customers and giving them exposure to that. So is it fair to say that that foundation and growing that was key to perhaps the next step of building out new processes? Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. And then from there, when you had some processes, then it became that need to automate. What sort of things, do you see that are, or let me phrase this another way. What could advocacy professionals be doing more of or be better at if they had automation in place?
Yeah, so I think the automation takes care of a lot. When you're early on in a program and you're just building it up, like I was saying, you kind of have your core advocates that you go to, your pure go-to advocates. And, oftentimes you lean on them. Sometimes you might lean on them more than you would like to. But once you start growing and, other customers are seeing the great things that those advocates are doing, that's when I think having a reference tool is key. Like I said, I think having the automation takes care of a lot. And what that allows the advocacy team to do is to really focus on, how are we fostering these advocates? How are we making sure that they're happy? Are the events that we put on, for example, are they meaningful? Do they have valuable takeaways? For us, that's really helped us focus on making sure it's a quality program rather than being bogged down by manual processes. I think for other companies, once you have those in place, you can really focus on your advocates.
I love that. The quality of the program. You can focus on that and what quality are you delivering to the customers, because you're not going to get away from needing to report and to have the data, but the time that it frees up is huge. Can you kind of walk us through, Alec, some of the processes that were manual maybe when you arrived in this position, and what are some of the things that you've been able to automate? And maybe we can just step through some of those.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could go on for so long about this, but yeah, I'll keep it kind of compact. So I would say, the first thing, when we were a smaller program early on, obviously we would want to track how many advocates are in our program. That's kind of how our program works. You kind of formally sign up, opt into different things you might be interested in doing. Maybe I want to do a reference call. Maybe I'm interested in case studies. So we're very flexible with those customers and making sure that they can do what they want to do. But where I'm kind of going with that is it's a lot of data. Customers sign up, they give us all their info around how they'd like to be involved in the advocacy program. We would track that data in an Excel spreadsheet, and we were super pinpoint about it. It worked very well, but as we're talking about the whole automation piece, it became necessary to have a tool where we were tracking all these. An Excel spreadsheet is those are great, but once things get at a massive scale, you need more of a stronger tool. So I think that's where Reference Edge has helped us in just the time and all that processing of data.
When you mentioned the spreadsheet, so let's we'll give a little love for the spreadsheets because they are useful from time to time. But what you were saying, and I like that, it sounds like, it's not that you had bad data. You were very disciplined, it sounds like, on the data that was going in. But there does come a point when you kind of have to throw up your hands and say, either I'm going to continue to spend all my time managing the spreadsheet in order to keep the clean data, or we have to look at something else. And that goes back to that whole time commitment thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It, just entering specific cells. We've all done it, and it can get to be tedious. Having a system where we can intake all of that data and we kind of run with it from there. So what I mean by that is if somebody wants to submit a reference request within Reference Edge, they already can see a list of our customers within that tool. All the data is kind of input and ready to go. Not only that, but maybe the requester wants a customer that's in a specific industry. You can filter on those. This all is attributed to being able to manage our enrollment within one centralized platform. It helps us do so many different things, where if our process before, we used a Google form to intake requests, which was fine. And then, we'd kind of refer to the Excel spreadsheet. It's just a longer process. You're kind of going from system to system, but that's why I advocate for, reference tools like Reference Edge. It helps keep everything clean and quick, efficient.
So you mentioned also the ability for your internal stakeholders, your end users, to be able to go in and they can see things on their own. Really kind of granting them that autonomy to do so. How has that helped? Other than time savings for you, has it helped with those relationships? Has it helped expedite things? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to give an example, so sometimes I'll get a direct message from a sales rep, and they're wondering if, we have a customer that fits a certain mold, maybe a certain use case, and they're looking to connect them with a prospect of theirs. That's fine. They let me know the info that I need. And from there, what that would require me to do is kind of research, like, okay, which customers use this use case? Where Reference Edge is helping is kind of that self-service, exactly what you're talking about. Reps don't need to so often come to me directly, ask me a question, wait on me to research, what customers we can come up with. Instead, they have the self-service. They can kind of jump in, see on their own, which advocates we have, but also which advocates fit the mold of what they're looking for in their request. So to your point, Alison, it just speeds everything up and makes the process efficient and makes me happy, and it makes our reps happy.
So we've talked about automating, number of advocates, advocate preferences, just reference requests and being able to see what's in there. What else have you been a part of and been able to, operationalize in your role? Like just any other processes. So you talked about, so you're automating away from the spreadsheets with the advocates, also being able to use it for reference fulfillment. Are there other processes either around metrics and reporting or other things that you've been able to put into place through automation?
So kind of where I was starting with our Salesforce team, they're great. They've been a huge help in terms of if we have an upgrade for Reference Edge, they're so great about being on top of it, making sure that the upgrade gets taken care of. Also, kind of just things that come up. Maybe we want to tweak something in the system that requires a Salesforce admin. So they've been fantastic. One thing that we implemented, it was a couple months ago, so pretty recent. When a customer of ours churns, sometimes we aren't notified of, when the customer kind of becomes a non-customer. So when it comes to our advocacy program, we really want to be on top of and super on it when it comes to accuracy of our enrollment. So our Salesforce team helped us put in a flow. They created it. This was all them. But it's a flow. So if we have advocates that are enrolled within Salesforce, within Reference Edge, and their account churns, the flow kind of automatically deactivates them as a member of the program. So there's kind of an example of that's something that before, we'd have to manually go in, check and see which ones have churned and then remove them. This kind of just takes all that away and handles it for us. And like I was saying before, that helps me work on other things, maybe other requests that we've gotten. And I'm not so bogged down on, those little tedious things.
And I think you've also done some things with, so you talked about the number of advocates, but also expanding and building the number of advocates, and like through nominations. Has that been helpful to automate that process?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, from like a couple questions ago, just this self-service, it's great when reps or CSMs reach out to us and say, hey, I have a customer that's interested in the program. We love that. We love engaging with our GTM. But at the same time, we want to make sure that they're not bogged down with like, okay, I have a customer that's interested. Where do I go from here? Like, who do I talk to? Is there like an email template that I'm supposed to send? So through nominations, that has really helped clean that whole process up. Kind of the way it looks within Salesforce. So if you're a CSM or sales rep, your customer is interested in joining the program, we have a button right at the top of the page. It says, nominate as reference. And from there, they can fill out just a very quick form that goes to us and we get the invite out. So yeah, just a much more clean, automated process. And I know that our GTM appreciates it because they've given us that feedback.
Yeah, definitely. And then when you get that information in and all of the different things that you're tracking, how has the automation impacted just general reporting? I mean, the metrics. Can you talk a little bit about, I know you've had some, don't be shy, like toot your own horn. I know you've had some big successes and love to hear about them.
Absolutely. One thing I'll touch on is revenue influence. We do a lot of references every quarter, and it's critical to, prove the value of our program through, one thing is through revenue influence. Before, it was very manual. I was talking about enrollment and using an Excel spreadsheet. For this, it was more to check our revenue influence, kind of manually going on each opportunity, checking the, amounts, seeing which ones have closed, which ones, were canceled. There were times where I would have, 20 tabs open at once with all those opportunities, and I'm counting them up. I can't express how helpful it's been to have, again, Reference Edge and that centralized system to be able to have these ready-to-go dashboards, ready-to-go reports. When it's end of quarter, which we're kind of creeping up on at this point, that's around the time that we want to compile all of our data from this quarter. And again, toot our own horn, prove our value. And we do that through the data reporting. It is so great when end of quarter comes. I don't feel so stressed anymore about, how much work am I up against to pull all these numbers. Instead, I can pop into our dashboards. It's super clean, shows us everything as far as revenue influence for open opportunities. How many opportunities did we win this quarter from references? And it's also helpful to the data for, how many references were opportunities that lost or were canceled. So, all that data is super important, and it would take a long time to compile, but I'm really impressed with Reference Edge and how the dashboard capability is. It's really customizable, and it gives us, what we need.
And well, you mentioned the customizing, so I'm curious because I know you level up, right, to the leadership team on these data points and things like that. And that's, I mean, as advocacy professionals, that's kind of become the name of the game, right? If you can't report on it and show your value, then you may as well just kind of prepare to pack your bags, because you have to be able to quantify the success. Are there requests that come from leadership like, oh, I'd love to see this, that you've been able to be a little bit more agile because you have automated certain things?
Yeah, absolutely. And, sometimes it's the newer sales reps that they're not really aware of the process quite yet of using advocacy, requesting references. We do a good job at making sure they're educated when they go through their onboarding. But, I get it. Onboarding, you're kind of drinking through a fire hose. It's a lot of information.
Yeah.
And sometimes reps will reach out to me. They have a specific need. We kind of segment our customers from financial services customers, and then there's just core customers, which is everything else under the sun. Reps will sometimes reach out. Hey, can you tell me how many advocates we have within this sector? How many financial services advocates do we have? That's when I point them to Reference Edge. I kind of spoon feed it to them just so they're really aware of the process and super sharp on it. And it's worked well. They get what they need. They're now educated on what they should be doing, and it saves them time from having to do more of that direct outreach to me.
Well, teach them to fish, right?
Right.
They get what they need, but then hopefully they're going and following that process as well. As far as, and just a couple more questions for you. When you kind of think back to your SDR days, because that's why I said I love that you have this perspective, because it's always easier when you've been in someone else's shoes, or at least you can appreciate overall advocacy, set aside automation and things like that. But what is the value that advocacy brings to sales?
Oh my gosh. It's almost like if you're a sales rep, you have this awesome sidekick of support. If you're a sales rep and you're looking to win a deal and you're doing demos, you're telling them all the great things about how our company can support you, one of the great things right out of the box is a supportive advocacy program. If the customer winds up signing and joining on with Seismic as a vendor, we have an amazing advocacy program that not only is tailored to experienced advocates that are really looking to up-level their day-to-day, but also newer advocates. Maybe they just recently signed on. We even welcome in advocates that are still in late stages of deals, just so they can get a sense of what the program looks like. And it's been an absolute game changer. We've gotten feedback from sales reps, and they're like, we love your program. It's so amazing to be able to offer this to customers that oftentimes, if they're just starting out with the software, they're a little bit confused. Hey, here's a community of folks that have been in your shoes and can help at any point. I mean, there's so many ways that the advocacy is great for sales, but I think being able to offer that to new customers and get them started on the right foot, I think there's huge value in that.
I love that response, because it's not just they get a reference, they quick use that to close the deal, that you actually went further with it, and you know that your sales reps are appreciating this is something bigger than you or me. This is something that you can participate in. And I think you and your team are very, very smart. So I think that that's kind of, moral of the story today, right? Like when you can bring automation in, it's the time and the quality of the work. And you articulated that so well. I really appreciate you joining. And I always ask everyone, if you have one piece of advice for advocacy professionals, and, especially those that are starting out, because there are a lot that you've got a few years under your belt, what advice would you offer to those individuals?
I would say, don't be shy about being creative. As an operations person, you know, a lot of the work that I do is frankly, operations, it's processes, and there's other things too within that, but it's easy to fall into the, okay, like this is the process that we're doing, like this is the data we need to pull, we need a reference that is in this industry, etc. A lot of it is just working with data, and I've found that it's easy to just kind of like fall into that trap, fall into like, okay, this is our process. What I've found helps kind of grow me personally, but also grow the program is just not being shy about being creative, like being open to other ideas about things. And I would say mainly that it's tough to as I was saying on your previous question, it's tough to manage processes perfectly while also trying to work on the vision and the growth of the program. It's tough to juggle both of those things, but being mindful of the growth part and, what are ways we can really make a difference for our advocates. I think just keeping that top of mind constantly is really important, and it helps, keep folks engaged and not so like, this is our process.
That's great advice. And it's something that, I mean, we're in marketing, I know I'm using that term, in a very general sense, because marketing has really become a million different, things. But for most of us who went into marketing, we like the creative piece of it. There's a lot of discipline to it, but I love that you're saying that, and especially to those that are starting out, because you do feel kind of bombarded with this to-do list and the things that you have to, like the check boxes. But it is okay to add some creativity in there and find new ways to do things, find new ways to automate stuff that, hey, if it's boring, let's automate it and let's see if we can free up time to be more creative. Alec, I really appreciate you joining. This has actually been a very refreshing conversation, and you are definitely, man, you have a good head on your shoulders and are doing so many smart things. Wish I could like clone you and, how like kind of distribute you to all kinds of different organizations that need somebody like you. But hopefully this will inspire more advocacy operations roles and more collaboration on those teams. So thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Alison. Pleasure being on, and always great working with you.
Thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to bookmark it wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to follow me, Alison Bukowski, on LinkedIn. And a special thank you to Point of Reference for supporting this podcast. For over 20 years, Point of Reference has been the Salesforce native solution to solve a myriad of customer advocacy and reference management challenges. It's our goal to elevate the professionals within this space to achieve business goals and drive their programs forward as vital to business success. Contact me to learn more.